morning. Thank you for joining us today on this week's installation of Bold Breakthroughs. We are joined today by the lovely Miss Maren Moore. Let me do a little brief background on Miss Maren, and then she can tell you a little bit about her journey. So Maren is a senior, correct me if I'm wrong, a senior Cadillac driving sales director with Mary Kay Cosmetics. She has been a director for 21 years, which you must have started when you were 4, because that does not look like it's possible. You have 3 kids. You are a single rock star mom. You have a dog, and you live out here in Portland. And you and I met, we were trying to figure out when you and I met. So maybe 9 years ago, 10 years ago through Mary Kay. It does not seem possible. So I am so excited to talk to you today because you just you're like a little duck. Like you may be scrambling underneath the water, but like on the top, you're just this smooth sailing mama, and you just make it look so easy. You just and it's always Disneyland. You're always in a good mood. You're always cheerful. You are just amazing. And I would love my audience to be able to steal some little tricks from you. So we're going to talk about that today. So welcome, Miss Maren Moore.
Thank you so much, Heather. This is so fun, and time with you is amazing. So that's what I have to say about how long we've known each other is time flies when you're having fun.
Awesome. Okay, so I want you to take us on a journey of how you ended up where you are today.
All right. Well, 21 years is a long time. It's a long time, but I've always believed in being an entrepreneur. Like that is always been something that made sense to me. I went to school for business, and it just something that made sense in my heart and in my head. But it wasn't always something I could see myself doing. It was that confidence in myself. So I was a really great cheerleader. When I started my business, it was really to come in and be a support to other people in business. And so I worked in offices and support staff. I was doing websites and newsletters and all sorts of things for people who were building their own business and building their dreams. And I loved being a cheerleader and a support staff and being a part of something bold and beautiful and new. And I loved that role. But then when I became a parent and I was sending my daughter, who's now 12, which is amazing to think about, but when she was born, I was sending her as a baby to daycare 5 days a week to help someone else build their dream. Things started to change a little bit in my mind and in my heart. I just thought, this doesn't feel as exciting as it used to, and I have dreams too, and where I was, I just there wasn't growth for me, there was only one CEO, there was only one boss, and I could be the support, but that's all I was ever going to be in that current situation. And so I've really wanted to someday achieve my own dreams. And so it was really my husband at the time that said, I think you could do this. You could do what those other people are doing if you believed in yourself. So that's really how I started my own journey is taking what made sense in my head and applying it to my own self and finding that confidence to just get out there and try.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of times as women, especially, we're really good at being other people's cheerleaders
Yeah.
because that gives us not necessarily an excuse, but it kind of allows us to live vicariously through other people, right? And
Right.
to allow them to take the big, bold, brave, scary leap that is necessary sometimes, right? Like you go do it. I'll cheer you on. I'll be here for you, but I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I'm confident enough. So I love that you kind of figured that out. Like it wasn't working for you anymore to go to work to build someone else's dreams. You wanted to build your own. So, and I think a lot of times
Exactly.
when you have a kid too, that puts not necessarily the pressure, but it puts chasing after your dream in a whole different light, right?
Exactly, exactly. I was playing it safe, and now there was more at stake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. So, what are some top 3 tips for women who are sitting on the fence about just that, about venturing out on their own?
Okay, so I would say number one is be consistent. And I don't love hearing this, but I hear it all the time. And like, it's just not very fun. You don't want someone to be like, wow, you're so consistent. That's not like a really exciting accolade. But it's so important. It's so
Yeah.
important. And whatever it is, whether, everyone's business is different of what it's going to take, whether it's something every day or something every week, but that every piece is so important. And so being consistent and for me, what I have learned is that being consistent means showing up when you don't feel like it. Like, because you're not consistently going to be excited. You're not consistently going to feel like jumping out of bed in the morning. And so showing up when you're low on energy, showing up when life gets chaotic because it will, showing up when you just don't want to. And I think as entrepreneurs, it's really hard because there's no one there to make you. There's no one there to make you show up. And so that consistency can, fall by the wayside because you can cut yourself some slack, right? And be like, well,
Mhm.
no one will know if I don't make my calls today. No one's going to know if I don't actually meet that weekly goal. But your business will show, the results will show, because consistency is so important. I had a quote that I came across it while I was reading a few weeks ago, and it just like really stood out to me. Whenever things, when you're reading and they stand out like that, you needed to hear it. So it was a Jim Collins quote, and he said the signature of mediocrity is chronic inconsistency. And I was like, right, right. And so it's that inconsistency that will get you.
Mhm.
So that would be the first one, is be consistent, show up when you don't feel like it. And the second one is be coachable. Because you guys, like, so many people have gone before us, and so we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We don't need to go at this alone. It's so much harder to go at things alone. And so you have people here to support you. You have Heather here. You have this whole community of people that are in this together. Be coachable, be open, be willing to learn. School's never out for the pro, and so open yourself to that. And I think that it's not very fun to be at this alone either. So it's so much more
Mhm.
enjoyable when you open yourself to learning and sharing. I feel like the teacher learns more than anyone. So when you're willing to coach others and when you're willing to be coached, it's just so much more powerful. So to definitely be coachable. And the third thing I would say is be willing to fail.
Ugh.
Oh, these aren't the most fun tips in the world. Sorry. Um, but right, like
No, super
failures,
important.
yeah, failure is so
Mhm.
important. In fact, like not just willing to fail, but expect it. Like just know that like it's coming because it's part of the process. And when I said, so I just started to try. I tried and then I failed, and then I tried and then I failed again. And that's part of the process. And whether you build your business fast or you build your business slow, the process is the same. And we fail forward to success. That is just how it works, and you can't avoid it. If you try and avoid it, you just won't get very far. So just
Mhm.
know, like, we learn the most in those failures, and then eventually it works out and we're like, whoa, look at that. And then we
Mhm.
we tackle the next
Mhm.
thing, right? So
Mhm.
I don't know, Heather, would you agree with those things?
Yeah, those are super
Yeah.
powerful. So I want to go back through those to be consistent. So I remember, and of course you'll know the woman's name because you're awesome with names, but it was a woman that was in Mary Kay that was dealing with cancer all the time. And she said she was going through her chemotherapy. So she would be nauseous and she would get sick. And I think her husband said to her at one point, like, well, just put on your wig and get out there, right? Just, do you
Yeah, that
remember who
was
that
probably
was?
Rena Tarbett.
I
Was
think
it
you're right.
Rena? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She had cancer for decades, decades, and she was one of the most successful women in Mary Kay, which says a lot because there's a lot of successful women in that business, right? And yep, she would just get out there um and put on that happy face and focus for whatever the amount of time she needed to focus. And it wasn't that her obstacles weren't important, but it was that dedication to her business. And what she found was that by showing up and getting out there, it gave, and I have found this too, that it kind of gives you that break from what, because you're whatever it is going to be there when you get back. So I don't think it's going away, but it kind of gives you a break, a breather from whatever it is, to think about something else, to go do something positive, and you can come back to it with just a little bit clearer head. And that's, I think Rena talked a lot about that. Like when you do something good for someone else, you kind of have a different perspective when you come back, and that's helpful. I have found that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I learned in my business from you actually was a quote that you used to say all the time is like, you can't build your business with Eek and Zoom. Like you can't Zoom your business and then this month and then all of a sudden, Eek, right? And stop doing it next month. And it's so much easier. And this is what I tell my son. This is a teachable moment for my son as we're going through and cleaning up the house on a daily basis, instead of doing it like every 2 weeks, that it's easier to keep up than it is to catch up. So that was
Yes.
something that you've taught me, is that like stop doing that Eek and Zoom. Oh, and you have a really good story about a jet that takes off.
Oh, the momentum. Yeah, yeah. So a jet, like a jet and like a plane, right? So it uses half of its fuel to just get up to cruising altitude. Half of its fuel, half of its energy source to just get up there to the cruising altitude. And then once it's up there, then it can cruise the rest of the journey, right? And the journey's long, but that shows like how much, such an amazing metaphor for how much of our energy it takes to just build up that momentum. Once we're there, to work off that momentum and to just I mean, you have to keep going. It's not like they turn off the engines once you're up to cruising altitude, right? Okay, could you imagine being up there in the plane and then everything turns off, right? that would not be what that would not be okay. But so you're still maintaining, you're still keeping the engines going, but you can use so much less fuel, so much less energy output to maintain that cruising altitude, because that's just the property of momentum. It's like priming the pump, priming the pump, priming the pump. And when the oil starts to flow, or the water, whatever the pump's for, right? You have to keep it going to get it flowing. If you let go, it's all going to fall back down to the bottom. So it's so important. Yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's interesting that we lose that momentum when we're in a business, for ourselves, not necessarily by ourselves, but for ourselves. When people are so excited to leap off the cliff and leave corporate, but I think that a lot of people leave corporate before they realize how valuable some components of corporate is. So when you leave a corporate environment to strike out on your own, you all of a sudden, it reminds me of like running into the middle of the room, and then you're like, oh, I don't have any clothes on, right? You're all of a sudden you run into the middle of your business, and there's no marketing department, there's no HR department, there's no boss saying, okay, it's 9:00, where are you? There's no boss saying, I asked you to do this project for me last week, where is it? Right? For better, for worse. That's all gone, and now you are the marketing department, you are the sales department, you are the HR department, and it's incumbent upon you to say, listen, you had these sales goals in order to make your rent or your mortgage or whatever, and you're not hitting it. What's going on here? So it is challenging when you're in a business, when you're an entrepreneur, to now you are those people, right? You gotta have to sit down and have a little talk with yourself and say, this is what's happening. And if you're going to go after those big goals, this is what needs to happen every day. And it's every day. And I'm so glad you brought up that point. That's a really good point about consistently showing up. I always wanted to write a book called The C Word, how consistency changes your life, right? Because it grabs your attention, right?
I love it.
It's 11:00 in the morning. I'm being naughty, but it gets your attention, right? And it's consistency, because more people that I talk to always talk about consistency. And you're right, it's not sexy, which is why a lot of people aren't doing it, because it's not the millionaire overnight. It's not the lose 30 pounds in 30 days. It's consistently showing up and working it every day. So I love that you said that. The other thing you said was be coachable. So my son, who's 11, we were talking about something with school. And he said, well, I can't wait until I'm out of high school when I don't have to learn anymore. And I said, that's interesting, because I always think, like you say, which I love that quote, is school is never out for the pro. Like I am always feeding my mind with something. I'm always listening to webinars or listening to podcasts or reading books or going to conferences, because I'm so excited for that knowledge that, to feed my brain to take me to the next level. So I'm really glad that you said that, to be coachable. And it's not a weakness to say, I don't know everything, right? This isn't my strength. You run in your own lane of strength, and then you bring people into your life that can share their zone of strength, or their lane of excellence. And then lastly, you said be willing to fail. And I love this, because I think it goes back to that, watching someone else do it, and you'll be a cheerleader for someone else doing it, right? Because that's a safe place to be. But a kid, when you put a child on a bike, doesn't sit there and think, I'm not going to pedal because I might hit that tree, or the dog might run out in front of me. No, like mom or dad like pushes them on the back. They're like, wah, right, pedaling down the street, and they might hit a tree, but they learn really quickly that they might need to steer a little bit so they miss the tree next time. That's where they learn their most valuable lessons, is once they're in momentum, they learn not to do next time. So when you're sitting on the sidelines in your business and you're watching everybody else do it, you're never going to learn how to do it yourself if you don't go through those failures and hit a tree every once in a while.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And learn to laugh at yourself, just like you are laughing now. Like, you just got to know, like, well, that was crazy, especially right now with all this technology. Like, oh gosh, the amount of times I've had to laugh at myself lately and be like, huh, that was interesting. Like, I mean, we're all in this learning curve, and you just got to learn, like, this is how it goes.
Yeah. I saw a
Yeah.
great meme the other day, and it said, being on a Zoom call is almost like being in a seance. Like, Karen, are you there? We can hear you, but we can't see you. Karen, are you there? And everybody's learning this whole weird technology, and then trying to put kids through the technology. And it's crazy, but you do. You have to laugh at it at the end of the day, because sometimes that's all you can do. And don't take yourself so seriously, right? Don't take life so seriously. So I love that you brought the really three really powerful points. So thank you for sharing those. If you could go back and tell your 25-year-old, well, in your case, 25 isn't so far behind you like it is for me. If you could go back and tell your 18-year-old self something, what would it be?
So many things. So many. We're talking business, right? Not personal.
Anything. Well,
Um,
okay, business. Let's start with business.
okay. I have really been focused lately, when I say lately, the past few years, on courage. And my kids hear all the time talking about courage does not mean you're not afraid. And I just heard one of my kids, my little ones, my 6-year-old, tell his friend this the other day, that courage does not mean you're not afraid, it means you do it anyway. Because otherwise you wouldn't need to be courageous. It doesn't take courage to brush your teeth. I think that I would say, you know, I'm really into John Maxwell lately. I mean, he's an amazing author, and he talks about, like, your life unfolds in proportion to your courage. And I would talk to my 18-year-old self about that, because I think there were a lot of opportunities I didn't take because I was afraid. And I was, I was still a great kid, but I think that there are shots that I miss because of that fear. And fear and faith can't occupy the same space. Excuse me. And so you've got to choose one. And so I would really give myself a really good pep talk about that. That's what I would
Yeah.
do.
I
Yeah.
have a quote on my bulletin board. It's from Mark Twain. It says, "Courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not the absence of fear."
Yes,
Really, really good
exactly.
point. And I love that you're listening to John Maxwell. So just a little side note, have you listened to, I think it's A Moment with Maxwell? Do you know what that
Oh,
is?
no.
Oh. So if you like John Maxwell, You
Yeah.
can subscribe. I think you go to his website and you subscribe. It's called A Moment with Maxwell, and it's delivered to your inbox every day. And it's literally 1 minute, so it doesn't take up your whole day. And it's people that give him words. So his viewers call in, or people write him, or whatever, and they give him a word, and they say, fulfillment. And he takes you on the adventure of what he thinks fulfillment means and the definition. And it's just
Ooh,
a little dose of John Maxwell every day.
yes.
Yeah, and and I oftentimes pull my son and I'm like, listen to this moment with Maxwell today. It's a really good one. So that's just a little side
Oh,
for you.
thank you for that. I love that.
If
I'm
you like
all over
Maxwell.
it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's interesting because I was listening to Mel Robbins, and she was talking about, there was a study done, and they were talking about I think it was called the um, I can't even remember. It was a group that they had gone out to a retirement home and talked to people that were very, very old, like 80s, 90s, that were nearing the end of their lives, and asked them the same thing, like if you could go back, and 90% of them said it wasn't that they went back and they were, they were sorry for the things that they didn't do, is that they'd spent so much time worrying in their lives, which is that moment comes to me, that thought comes to me constantly about, at the end of my life, when I turn around and I look back at the legacy that I've left. It's not necessarily the chances that I didn't take, but it's how much time I spent worrying about what was going to happen if I did take those chances, right? So it's like you said, missing those shots that you didn't take, hugely important. Good.
Yeah, I love that.
Awesome. I love that idea. I love that idea. And I wish more people would do that. And it's funny because I think that when you're a young kid, you know it all, right? Like you've got the world at your feet. You know it all. I got this all figured out. And I wonder if we would listen to our older selves coming back to us and saying, listen, like I got some words of wisdom here, or if we would just say, we got it all figured out. Like sometimes
Right.
it's you have to have the bloody knees in order to learn the lesson.
Right. Exactly.
Unfortunately. Yeah, unfortunately. So what has been, you've been at this for 21, I can't believe that. You've been at this for 21 years now. What's been the hardest part of the biggest challenge for you in building your business?
Um, I always say, people ask me when they're new
Mhm.
to owning their own business. People do ask me what's the hardest part. Um, and my answer is that action comes before motivation. So there are moments that I get motivated and I'm excited, but oftentimes the action comes first. And then I get into activity and then great things happen and then I'm excited and I'm motivated because something just great happened. But that great thing wouldn't have happened if I didn't get into activity first. And so I think that that self-discipline of of knowing and trusting that if I do this activity, I, I the results will come and then the results are going to be really exciting and that's going to bring some passion and motivation that I'm hoping for. But that activity comes first. So the self-discipline to just trust the process and know that it will come. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I read a quote that said, the only place that motivation comes before movement is in the dictionary.
Exactly. There you go. Yep.
So yeah, so it goes right along with what you're saying, is that you can't, so many times we sit and we wait, oh, I'll do it, when I feel like it. Here's a little side note, right? There's so many times nobody feels like leaping out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning to go for a run. Very few, you might, because I know you like running, but very few people like doing that, right? We'd either be cozy in our bed. Very few people feel like picking up the phone to make a sales call. That's just not something like, woohoo, I get to call 25 strangers today. And that's not something that but the more you do it, it's that confidence, competent loop. The more you do it, the more confident you are, which means you're going to go out and do it more, which you gain more confidence, right? So I think that's a really, really good point, is do something, get into movement, do something, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And you mentioned that I like running just now.
Mhm.
Uh, I when I started running, I hated it. I mean, I don't use the word hate very often, but I will use it in how I feel about running. And the only reason I have found a love for running is because it has helped me cope with quarantine, and it has helped my body feel so much better and stronger, and um hasn't really like done much for my dress size, but that's okay.
Mhm.
I feel better, I feel better mentally. And but it's because I've been running since March, right? So it's taken
Mhm.
some time to get there, and now I love running, but I didn't at the beginning. So same principle of, it took
Mhm.
the movement and forcing myself to do it only from a survival standpoint of, this is the only excuse I have to get out of my house. but um but it, there you go. Like now I have found passion for it, but
Mhm.
that came after the movement. So same
Yeah.
principle.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think we need to look at some things that are not too terribly comfortable in our lives. Even something simple like doing the dishes. It's funny to me how long I will sit on the couch and think, okay, right after I finish this chapter or right after I watch this next webinar, I'll get up off the couch and I'll go do the dishes. And I spend 3 hours contemplating getting up and doing the dishes and worrying about it, being like, why me? Why do I have to do dishes? Can't the kids just eat off paper plates, right? Whereas in reality, it will take me about 4.5 minutes to unload a dishwasher, right? But I've spent 3 hours sitting here anticipating it. And I think that's the worst of all, is when we anticipate what's going to happen. And that is one of the biggest lessons in my business, has been to let go of the outcome, right? We anticipate how things are going to go. Oftentimes we have a discussion with a client that's not there, or a spouse that's not there, or a child that's not there, right? Well, I'm not going to tell my kid that. It's just easier for me to go ahead and pick it up, because then I have to teach him how to do it. And then I'm going to get back to him. It's like, who are you? He's not even in the room. Who are you talking to, right? And yet we do this all the time with ourselves, that if I pick up that phone and I make that sales call, she's going to yell at me. She's going to tell me never to call her again. She's going to, right? You don't even know this person if you're cold calling. And yet you've got this entire dialogue written up in your head that you're going to have with this person. Give them the opportunity to say no or yes on their own, right? Don't make that judgment for them. So yeah, I'm really, we need to like get to the process of what I want is on the other side of pushing through that 3 minutes of fear, or the 3 minutes of I don't want to,
Right, right.
yeah, really powerful stuff. So
um
what is something bold that you've done that you look back on and it still kind of surprises you that you did that?
hmm well, I love the word bold. That, like, that's such an empowering word. Okay, so this is interesting. You're asking me this question. Um, it's interesting. So I earlier this week I was doing a little presentation for my team and was looking for a particular picture. And so I was going through like on my Facebook looking for this picture that was about 6 years ago. And so I had to scroll through all these pictures looking for this one
Mm-hmm.
photo. And doing that, was a flood of memories, looking through 5 years of photos. And I came across this photo where I was at a conference, like a leadership uh, business conference. And at that conference, I was standing there with a big smile on my face with a baby strapped to my front in like a baby carrier. And when I saw this picture, I just sat there and was kind of stunned because I realized what was happening in my life at the time. And this baby was 10 weeks old. This was my youngest child, Lila. She was 10 weeks old, maybe 8 weeks old. I don't know, young baby. I was nursing, and I was in a really horrible marriage situation, abusive marriage, the height of abuse at this time. Um, and so, a lot of times in abusive marriages, things like a birth of a baby can just like, make things even more intense, right? And so it was just really, really bad. And to the point where I had a 2-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I couldn't leave, or a 7-year-old at the time, and I couldn't leave them home with their dad because it wasn't safe. And so I remember I looked at this picture and I thought, I found another place for my toddler and my 7-year-old to go. And I strapped this 10-week-old to my body. And I remember I brought a suitcase of juice boxes and granola bars because we didn't have money for like eating out all week. And I went to a leadership conference. I don't even remember what town it was, but it wasn't anywhere nearby Oregon. I had to take a plane to get there. I thought, what was I thinking? Like, that, you know, and I thought, I know what I was thinking. I was thinking, I need a way out. I was thinking, I need to become independent and self-sufficient. I need to provide for my family, meaning my children and I need to leave the situation that I'm in and I need to make that way out. That's what I was thinking. And so as I was looking at these pictures of me smiling with this baby, I knew that I was very broken in those, I knew that my heart inside was not okay, but that I was doing the best I could to go get the training. Like I wasn't a speaker at this conference. It wasn't they didn't need me there. No one would notice if I didn't come, if I didn't show up. I went there to find the training and the coaching and and what I needed to hear in order to change my situation. And I spent a lot of money going there. It was a lot to me at the time. And so it impacted me so much to look at that picture now. Here I am 5 years later or so. Yeah, my daughter's going to be 5 in a few days. So almost 5 years later, in a situation where I am providing for my family and I I am in a safe place and I have a life that I love. And it has been through being able to be an entrepreneur and build this business that allows me to be home with my kids and provide, money doesn't buy you happiness, but it buys you choices and it buys you, in my case, freedom and safety. And and so that was a bold move on my part to trust that, as a single mom, I became a single mom just 5 months later. And so with a nursing baby and a toddler and a elementary schooler, like to step out and not go get a real job like my parents were begging me to with benefits and all the things, but to step out and trust that like I will show up for myself and I will um I will do the hard things and I will trust in my business plan and I will trust in my support systems and I will step out even though I'm scared out of my mind because I can see that there is my vision is here and I have faith in it and I'm going to hold on to that. I think that whole season of my life was bold, but that particular picture, man, I looked like a bold woman. So anyway, I don't know. If you would have asked me a week ago, maybe I'd have a different answer, but that picture sure touched my heart. So there's my answer today.
Wow. My cheekbones are hurting from smiling so much, Maren. That's such a powerful story. And I hope that you take that picture and put it up on your bulletin board so you have a reminder of how deep you had to dig to find that boldness to put that baby on and just go, listen, I'm going despite all the odds. That is such a hugely powerful story. I am so proud of you. That's amazing. Wow. Wow. And I think, and you always said, this is another quote that you taught me, was a lot of times it's what's caught versus what's taught. So what you were teaching your children, especially your oldest daughter, was that you didn't have to settle for this relationship, right? That you had the strength within you. It wasn't dependent upon someone else to finance that for you. You were like, no, listen, I got this, right? I have the intelligence, I have the wherewithal, I know where to go get my training. I have the people that I can tap into to watch my children while I'm gone. I got this. And so that is going to be something that holds her through too when she's going through tough times of like, I got this, like scared as all get out, but I got to do this. I got to do this and finding that moment of bravery. I am so proud of you. Ah,
Thank you, my
you're
friend. I love you.
I love you too. You were making it work, and now here you're driving the babies around in a Cadillac.
That's right. Is pretty crazy. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it
Pretty
is.
awesome.
Find a way, make a way. And I really love the point that you said, when your parents were, begging you like, go get a job with benefits, and that you persevered through that, because it's oftentimes not even the voices outside of our head that take us away from our course. It's the one inside of our head that takes us away from our course. And yet in this case, you were like, listen, like tune out everybody else's voice. I'm listening to my own this time. So that's a hugely powerful moment. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, I think, when it comes to other people's advice and stuff, it's sometimes it can feel disappointing when people don't support you or share your same vision. But for me, I try, I shouldn't say always, but I try and think about where it's coming from. And, for my parents, they haven't always been so, they are right now. They're really excited about, you know, um, the Cadillac especially, and just the past couple years have been really great for us, and so they're excited about that. But they haven't always been supportive, but it's come from a place of love. They care and they want their baby girl and their grandchildren to be safe, and so and their generation especially, they just grew up differently, and so I try not to take that personal, because sometimes I think, oh, they don't believe in me. They don't think I can do this. But then I have to reframe that to they care, and they see this differently than I'm seeing it. But that's okay. They can have that perspective. That doesn't change my perspective. My perspective is solid. I know where I'm headed. I know what I'm capable of, and I have the support that I need in other ways. So, yeah.
That just gave me cold chills. Yeah, you're right. And I'm really glad that you clarified that, because I think a lot of times those voices do come from a place of caring and a love and a place of fear, right? It's something that they wouldn't themselves feel comfortable doing. So they're scared for you that it might not work out, right? And it is very much a generational thing, because my mom still says to me, no, what is it? I don't really understand what it is you do. Like, I don't go into an office. I'm not there 9 to 5. It's a whole new world, but she loves and supports me no matter what I do. And your parents do too. So that's awesome. So do you have anything that you'd like to share with our audience, a way that they can work with you, or how to
Aw.
continue on, carry on the amazingness with Maren?
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah. um, well, I'm always around. I'm on social media if you want to. There aren't that many Maren Moores in the world, so you're welcome to find me on Facebook or Instagram. And I'm really passionate right now about self-care and just love, like pampering and loving on people, women, but just people, like everyone has skin. And so I love, I'm sending out little pampering packets in the mail. If you'd like one, I'd love to send one to you. No, like no obligation, just like a virtual hug, like a thank you for watching. And I'd love to send one to you if you want to message. Can they message me their address?
Yeah,
I'll send it to them in the
absolutely.
mail. Okay. If
Yeah,
you'd like, if you'd like to, I'd be happy to send you one. Just as some just we all need some self-care, and I don't know where you are watching from, but in Oregon, we are not running out to the spas these days, and so we're all at home hanging out. And
absolutely.
so if you would like that, I'd love to send you some self-care in the mail. But besides that, you're welcome to find me on social media and say hi, and um, I would just love that.
Yeah, I will for sure put your links to everything
Okay.
down below. And I love that you bring up the point of self-care, because right now, especially, especially with children at home, it's,
Right.
I used to really look forward to when my son would go off to school, because he'd go off and hang out with his buddies, and, he'd get loved on. But then I had my time. It was just my time. And short of like going to the bathroom and shutting the door,
Mhm.
and building those boundaries, which is something I talk about a lot. It's tough these days to find that little moment of time. So if we're not, like, I haven't had a massage since March, I don't think. So we're not really getting out of the house to go do big, extravagant spa days or weekends away at the winery or whatever it is for you. So we really do need to take those moments to carve out of our schedule to take 10 minutes to throw a mask on your face and put like some mint bliss on your feet and kick your feet up and take a little you time. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. So yeah, we will definitely put that step below so people can get in contact with you. And then I really encourage people to reach out to Maren and to find out everything that she's about and her story and everything she's got to offer. And you will never find anyone in your corner that's going to love on you and encourage you and cheer you on as much as Maren Moore does. She's been my cheerleader since the day I met her. She's always telling me I've got enough belief for both of us. So I really appreciate that about you. I just love you. Is there anything else you'd like to add to our audience or share?
Oh, I love you too. I'm a crier. It's shocking we've been talking this long and I have not shed a tear, but I'm trying to be, professional for y'all. But I love you so much, Heather, and I'm so incredibly proud of you and your success. And you are just a light in this world. And so the fact that we have this virtual platform where you can reach so many people this way is such a blessing and such a gift. And I'm not a fan of this pandemic. It's wearing on me, but I can say that one of the most beautiful gifts that have come of it is the fact that our platform and our ability to reach each other is so much wider. And so, Heather, the fact that you can talk to women and people all over now is, I think, just making the world a better place because you are such an amazing, amazing person. And I think everyone needs to know you. So thank you
Aw,
for letting me be your friend and letting me be a part of this amazing, bold breakthroughs.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for spending your morning with us, Miss Maren. And I will put all your stuff down below. People can reach out to you to get a hold of you and to be in your world and your space. Bye, everyone. See you next week.
Bye.